Fire the entire boys marketing team. Do not bring them on ever again. Do not let them work for anyone. Beto! Emergency podcast! This is the third time we're recording this intro, so Carson, I don't know why you're surprised.
Oh my god, it's because you got closer to your mic for the third time! You got closer to your mic, and so now it's just peeking in my ears.
You're welcome. Yeah, so we have no cold open. We did have the Lanterns trailer. That'll be on Saturday's episode. We're just gonna kick it into the intro, and I'll explain everything in a second, because what's up, Nimrods? It's your boys back with an emergency episode of the Nerdy Nimrods podcast, the only podcast on the internet where your two favorite Nimrods talk all things nerdy. I'm your host for today's episode, Brandon, aka Parrotfish, here with my forever co-host,
Carson, aka Juggernaut.
And yeah, that is right. This is our first ever emergency podcast. We had the Boys series finale drop literally earlier this morning, and we didn't want to wait. We did not want to wait to talk about it, so we're just going to do it now. We also actually have a bonus review as well. It was something that was soft on the docket for last week that came out this past weekend, but because I was in town and scheduling conflicts and stuff like that, it was really difficult to even watch Sheep Detectives, let alone anything else.
Right.
So we could really only do the Boys and in one movie, and we chose Sheep Detective. Lo and behold, there was another movie that apparently is the second coming of Jesus Christ, an Obsession, that came out, and so we're gonna review that. We both saw that. So this week you're getting 2 episodes. Mandalorian and Grogu will still be this weekend. Yeah. We might also review another movie that is still up in the air, but it will at least be Mando and Grogu. Right. Today, right now, no cold open again. Lanterns trailer we'll talk about on Saturday's proper episode. We just want to get into the meat and potatoes of this. We're going to start with the Boys. We went back and forth on how we wanted to do this.
Yeah. And the excitement outweighs the, just talking about outweighs the let's put it off to last, even though, let's be honest, it should be.
Yeah, we typically, little behind the scenes, we try to put the biggest thing of the week, which is typically a movie, as the last thing we talk about. Unfortunately, though, The Boys final came out, and we really want to talk about it, like, really badly.
Yeah.
Which is, again, why we're doing this emergency podcast
I was about to say,
and then Obsession is just there for a little icing on the cake.
But I was about to say, you could make the argument that, The Boys is actually even more special than going last or first, because it's literally the sole reason we're doing an episode on a random Wednesday. We've never done that for any property. And I guess Obsession can also be tossed in there too, but that wasn't the sole reason we would be doing this on a random Wednesday.
No. Obsession was just thrown in there because it was a movie that we both had a passive interest in watching, and then I watched it, and I wanted to record a podcast about it. That's the only thoughts you'll get from me until we review it. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and give a big spoiler warning for The Boys and Obsession. Honestly, pretty big for both. I'll be straight up. Obviously, The Boys, we're going to not only talk about the series finale, which aired literally 12 hours ago or less or something like that.
About right.
We're going to spoil not only just the series finale, but the series as a whole, which presumably if you've watched the finale, you've watched, and Obsession. There will be timestamps in the description as per usual. Carson, I'm not even going to ask you how you're doing. Do you have anything you want to say before we get into this?
Grab your crowbars, hold on to your wankers. Let's get into this. Evening, cunts.
Yeah, we're both appropriately dressed. Carson started the podcast wearing that when we first joined the recording studio. And he's like, do you have anything? And I was like, this is like literally something Butcher probably wore at one point in time.
It actually kind of looks close enough to what he wore in the finale with that dark. I think he had a little bit more color and it was like black and like other colors, but it's close enough.
Yeah, no, this is actually like one of my favorite shirts anyway that just happened to be clean.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Carson, I will give you your 3 minutes. You will give me my 3 minutes. We will go back and forth afterwards. Let's get into this.
Yeah. Look, it's no secret. This show means a lot to me. I've been a defender even of the mediocrity episodes and seasons that take place in seasons 4 and season 5. I've defended this at least saying it's still at least a good to decent show. I don't think anybody's really going to dispute that fact. I don't think that there's anything that in the season that's been absurdly awful or absurdly bad. Disappointing? Yeah. And we talked about that a lot last week, about just all the things that could have happened. But again, nothing that makes me mad or fully upset or something that I'm going to jump off the edge of a bridge over. And honestly, that's kind of how I feel about this finale. Is there wasted potential? Yeah, absolutely. Is there a better episode out there somewhere? Probably. Is this episode disappointing? Yes. Does this mean that I think this is a bad episode or a bad finale to a TV show? No, not at all. There's a lot to love in this episode, and I think where the characters naturally end up in this show honestly kind of makes sense. And I kind of like the endings that we get for some characters. Some are happy endings, some are sad endings, and some are just fucking right. There are a lot of endings to a lot of characters in the show that I'm like, that, yeah, I like the way that goes. There's nothing in this show that makes me absurdly mad. Or in this episode that makes me absurdly mad. But, and I have grievances with it, and we'll get into it, a lot of wasted potential without getting too nitty-gritty into it. We talked about some of it last week. The Gen V characters, we'll get into it, is one of those big things. Butcher's final twist at the end, where I'm not mad at the choice, or even the scenes that are surrounding it. Episode could have favored for like 5 minutes of just extra content showing how they get to Vought Tower, or at least Huey chasing after Butcher. It's like nitty gritty minor things that I'm just like, that could have just like been longer. It's weird because they actually successfully, in my mind, they actually successfully did the finale episode in an hour, which you and I did look at last week, going, how were they going to do this? I think they did successfully do it, but there is no mistake. And without getting too deep into it, because we'll get back and forth, there's a lot they did right with this episode. And again, as a finale, I think it's good. Is it great? No. Is it good? Yes, it's perfectly watchable. But is a disappointment, and there is something clearly missing in this finale that we could have easily had they thought through the ending of their show a little better. But I guess that's kind of where I sit on it. Not mad, not upset, but definitely disappointed and definitely underwhelmed, I think is a good word to use.
Fair enough. My turn. Carson, give me my 3 minutes. I promise you. It's not that bad. The Boys series finale is serviceable at best. I would say that my biggest problem with it is if you watch our episode last week, I almost bar for bar predicted every single thing that happened, and that's insanely disappointing for a show like The Boys that is known for its plot twists and big, surprising moments. None of that happened in the finale. It immediately from the get-go felt like a different show. And I realized after I watched it, the reason why is because this was clearly shot with the 4DX in mind. And in my opinion, that was a very bad thing. And it actively made the finale feel like it wasn't even a part of the series. From the color grading to the camera angles, everything just immediately felt off. And that carried through the entire episode. Yes, there were some great moments. Don't get me wrong. I loved seeing the deep die, in my opinion, pretty poetically, not only by the sea animals in the ocean, but also with an unwanted tentacle in his mouth, which, if you did not put that together, kind of a callback to what got him into this situation in the first place, just the other way around. Stuff like that I really liked. Obviously, I'm so happy that Homelander actually died. I don't like the way we got there. I think they significantly powered down Homelander to the point in which literally 5 minutes before the final battle, he flies a dude to space and back in 5 seconds, and then he can't even escape the White House or do anything against any of the boys at all in that final fight. Stuff like that was just egregious. The thing that pissed me off the most is the thing I've talked to death. The Gen V characters, I was actually like furious, like fuming in my seat when they shipped them off specifically the way that they did. This season was very clearly written with Gen V Season 3 in mind, and then it got canceled. And in my opinion, that's not an excuse. They should have written them better. You should have done something more with them. It felt like an absolute waste. And it doesn't get me excited for their other spin-offs, because why am I supposed to care about any future spin-off when you didn't care about your past spin-offs? The stuff with Butcher, I liked all of it, but it's another example of I didn't like how we got there. It was, okay, we've defeated Homelander. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, now he's gonna kill everyone because he has no one left. We needed an episode dedicated to that. We really did. I'm not saying 5 minutes, I'm not saying 30 minutes. We needed an episode of that. Especially because I wish we would have spent more time with depowered Homelander. I feel like I really, really personally needed Homelander to grovel a little more as a human before he died. Because that's his whole character, is he is nothing without his powers, and he loses his powers, has the one thing where he's like, I'll suck your dick or whatever, and then dies. I wish I got more out of that. But unfortunately, we had to spend 5 minutes introducing a ball gag that would then end up killing O-Father. Again, overall, nothing that they did in this episode, other than the stuff with the Gen V characters, I felt was overtly egregious. I just did not enjoy myself, honestly. I felt nothing when the episode ended, because it felt like we know what they want to see, we're going to give it to them, and nothing else. And it's not going to have any connective tissue, it's just going to happen. And that, to me, is extraordinarily disappointing.
Yeah.
Was that about what you expected? Was that egregious?
No, that wasn't egregious. We're saying the same thing. I'm a little lighter on it though. Whereas
that's fair. I mean, you care about the boys more, which is what we've known from the beginning.
I think the biggest thing that we're gonna differ on, and we're gonna say the same things, but I'm gonna feel different about it. And again, I've spent a longer journey with it.
Yeah, I watched the boys literally right before the final season aired. I will fully admit that.
And I've been watching it since 2020 or 2019, whatever. I don't remember when. I've been watching it for years. This is a show that I've been on a journey from start to finish. Look, is it a perfect finale? No. I already said that. But like the biggest disconnect that I think you and I are gonna have, at least difference-wise, is you said you felt nothing by the time the show ended, and I could see how you get there. I did feel something. I did tear up when Butcher died. I did. Big spoilers, by the way. Even though we all knew that was coming. And here's the thing. That would have been the thing that would have ruined it, and I would have called this the worst finale ever, if Butcher survived.
I'm going to be honest, there was a point in time where I very much thought they were going that way, and I'm going to be fully honest, I was actively starting to get angrier and angrier the further after Homelander's death, where we didn't kill Butcher.
Oh my god, I was like, please kill Butcher. You can't let him live. He literally has nothing. Kill him off.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I mean, the terror death, for instance.
Yeah.
I get it. It was expected, but it also, again, that's why I felt like we needed an entire episode. Like, kill Homelander, Homelander dies, then give us another episode, where at the start of that episode, we start with the come down, we find out that Terror dies, and we get a lot more of the chase down, the Huey Butcher stuff, the plan, like...
Yeah, so here's the thing that I'm kind of thinking through, and again, I even said to you off camera before we started recording this, I feel like my opinions on whatever I say right now is going to change drastically, because I've only seen this episode twice. I watched it once this morning before I went to work, and then once after work just to make sure I had all the thoughts and make sure I was feeling what I was feeling. And I still stand by what I'm feeling, is that overall this episode's good. Solid finale, like you said, serviceable. I don't really have any major reasons to get mad or upset or flip the tables or whatever. It does have problems, but and again, we'll get into that. But like, Butcher's turn at the end, I guess we'll start there because we kind of already started down that path. I'm not mad by any of those scenes, and you say you think they needed a whole episode. I don't think they needed a whole episode. I just think they needed to make this episode slightly longer to kind of make the journey of getting there better. Because I almost said Tremor. Terror being the last straw for him, realizing he has nothing, and that's the breaking point for him, makes sense. And building that point actually made perfect sense to me. The part and the disconnect that I have with it is that we decided to jump from that and Huey seeing Homelander in the van to immediately Vought Tower without seeing any conversation between the rest of the boys or this or that. And so it just kind of made it seem like, oh, wow, we're going through this really quickly. And we could have had at least 5 minutes to, like, kind of get through this, because like Huey could have easily said to MM or Starlight, and they're like, well, we got to go after him. He's like, no, I got to do this on my own. And you could give him the reason of like, I'm his what does he say, canary, is that what he calls him, canary?
Yeah, canary. Yeah,
you could have given that reason to the team, and then Huey could have gone off on his own. It doesn't take that long to get there. So I think that's like just where it kind of like is like, that's like a big story moment where like you should have done more with that.
I mean, that's my biggest problem with this entire episode is everything needed more time. Like, it wasn't just the Butcher stuff. It was everything. And that's why I feel like, okay, either make this episode 2.5 hours like the Stranger Things finale, or make it 2 episodes.
Sure.
Or, hot take, don't have a shitty penultimate episode, which we both agreed was the case. Like, that penultimate episode should have been half of what happened in this episode.
Yeah.
And yes, I get it. You would need to fix the other episodes to get to that point faster. But, like, here's another thing. The V1 didn't matter at all. It stroked Homelander's dick a little bit. It gave him a little bit more of an ego. But admittedly, we could have gotten to that point so easily without the V1 making him immortal. We really could have. We could have gotten Homelander thinking he's a god without making him immortal. I get it. It helps. But it didn't make him any stronger. The immortality didn't matter at any point in time. The only thing it did was, oh, now we need to not use the virus. But admittedly, I think you could have done something interesting with the virus. I don't know. Like, the V1 mattered not at all. And that's the whole thing. Again, I already brought it up in my review, but like, Homelander flies to space and back in less than 30 seconds for bringing a billionaire to space. And then immediately afterwards, he can't do shit. And he has V1. And, okay, he lasered Kimiko in half without V1, mind you, in the prison scene. And then, I get it, she has the Soldier Boy chest beam, but does that immediately mean she can just tank all of Homelander's laser attacks? I think that's BS. Because just as Kimiko has gotten stronger since then, so supposedly has Homelander. And I don't think that that is an even scale.
Yeah, and look, here's what I'll say, and I know you're going to hate this argument. Maybe there's going to be people online that are also going to hate this argument when I say this. At the end of the day, this is a show about superheroes, and I think the hardest thing even in anime, and I know you've admitted this too, is power scaling.
Absolutely.
Every show at one point or another has a problem with it. This show also has a problem with it. So when I look at something like a superhero show and things like that happen, yes, I'll acknowledge they exist. I kind of have to just suspend my disbelief of it a little bit, because unfortunately everything, unless you're like the holiest of perfect superhero movies that have ever existed, it's really hard to honor power scaling. So you kind of just, in order to enjoy the ride and enjoy the journey that you're on, you have to suspend disbelief. And that's kind of what I did. So whenever we get things
I
like
get that,
Kimiko,
but there's a limit.
No, and again,
there's a limit.
There's a lot of it in this episode, so I'm not giving this episode grace by any means, but I'm saying it didn't bother me personally as much because I wasn't overly like critically thinking about it. Again, I'm also different. From start to finish, I was just trying to enjoy this ride, and I feel like I did. So like, when we get to things like that and Kimiko, and I get it. But I liked Ryan standing up to Homelander. I liked that bit, even though, yes.
Yeah, and I liked that he was also depowered as well.
But also, I understand. Yes, you're going to look back at season 3. It took Soldier Boy, Huey, and Homelander, and Butcher all souped up to not even hold him down. And of course, Ryan's not able to hold him down. I get that's a problem, but I don't care. Because the show's ending. I'm enjoying the final scenes they're giving us. And there's a lot of great things in that too. Again, Ryan standing up to Homelander is great. Pretty much everything that Butcher talks about, and this is true. I think this is the best hand-to-hand combat that Butcher and Homelander.
Hard disagree.
Which one disagree. Is better? I'm not saying it's shot better. I'm saying that like choreography-wise, this is objectively the best one.
So my biggest problem is I hate all of the fight scenes in this episode because, again, this is the fault of shooting it to be in 4DX. All of the camera work felt bad, especially in the combat sequences. It felt shot for the oomph of 4DX, not for the oomph of looking cool. It felt very choppy, very all over the place. Yeah, the choreography looked cool when we weren't going like this and shaking and all over the place all the time, but that was constantly. And so I get it. I really would love to sit here and say, yeah, the fights were awesome, but I couldn't enjoy them because I'm shaking left and right without my chair shaking with me.
I don't know. I see where you're coming from, but when I think shaking, I think like shaky cam action, which is the worst kind of action. I don't think this was that.
Agreed.
I don't think this was that. This was just like it being filmed for 4DX, and so the camera moves one way, so you move with it, this, that, whatever.
I'd have less of a problem with it if maybe they didn't only put out 2 4DX showings ever for the finale, and yet they filmed the entire finale as if this was going to be in 4DX for weeks. Like, that's the other thing. It's like, oh, cool, you're getting a 4DX experience for 50 people per state or per town.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is that? That is utter bullshit. Stranger Things, yeah, it was only 2 days, but it had 15 showings per goddamn theater. It was the only thing showing in half of my theater.
Right.
Like, they sold that thing out easily.
Yeah, and I
Boys
don't
would have
know
done the same thing, even in 4DX.
Yeah, and I don't know what they're thinking with that. And maybe I'd understand limiting screenings because they want, like, the diehard boys fans, like, you're the ones going, whatever. I understand that to a certain degree, but at least have at least 3 per day over the course of, like, 2 days. That's
my thing is
other options, like, for days.
Yeah,
like,
give more days. I get it. They all, like, this was already an earlier release. They released this at like 9:30, or no, sorry, it was 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in theaters, which was 6 hours earlier than it released on Amazon Prime, so it was a sneak preview. I get that. Show it the next day. Show it for the next 2 days. Have more showings the following days. Maybe have it in 4DX to begin with and then show it in standard. I don't know. They would have made a bank off of that, and I feel like it was wasted potential. And I wouldn't have a problem with it as much as I do now because of how clearly shot for 4DX it was. It wasn't like it just enhances what's already there. No, they shot this knowing they wanted this to be in 4DX, and that detracts from the normal person experience, in my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah, but I know where I want to...
Sorry, I'm taking it back to the fight scene itself. I don't know. Again, my opinions could completely change by the end of this. I ended up timing it out, and I can read you the times that I have written down, or you can just take my word for it, either one.
I'll take your word for it.
The only thing I asked for the final fight sequence in this show, or like the big fight sequence, was that it would be at least a little longer than the season 3 fight sequence. And it is. It's not by much. It's like 3 minutes. But
honestly, I'm surprised it was longer by 3 minutes. I would have guessed a minute and a half.
But honestly, again, for the boys, that kind of makes sense. This isn't like Avengers. This isn't Captain America Civil War. Like, this makes sense.
I get that.
This completely makes sense.
I get that. I would have loved longer.
Yeah.
But I'm only upset because of the connective tissue issue. Like, everything felt rushed. Like, the fight sequences felt rushed. They were probably the least rushed, maybe, but, like, everything felt rushed, and that's just kind of like a comprehensive feeling I have that bleeds into the fight sequences.
I agree with you that everything felt rushed, but there's actually a lot of moments that I don't feel were rushed. I have a love-hate relationship with saying that, because, like, on one hand, I actually think the Deeps fight scene was the perfect amount of time because he needed to go. That fight, I think that was the perfect amount of time. I don't entirely
disagree. But I feel like it was rushed.
But the voice
admittedly,
of God died immediately to that stupid ball gag, which is fine.
I'm gonna say something.
Yeah.
I did not. That's actually the loudest I cheered the entire thing, just because it was kind of cool, was when O-Father died. Here's the thing. O-Father might be my second favorite death of the show. Maybe. For one reason. I love that he died and we never knew his true feelings. I know some people might feel like that is an incomplete character arc. I love that Ashley tries to convince her other half to read his mind to see if she can flip him, and we never knew. O-Father died and we never knew whether or not he was going to flip. We never knew. Some people will be like, that's an incomplete character arc. No, I think that's a perfect character arc. I think, okay, second favorite death is probably a stretch. It's obviously A-Train number 1 for me. And then 2, I'd love to give it to Homelander or Butcher, but admittedly, again, I
that's
have a
so
lot of
hard.
grievances with those.
That is so
but like,
hard, dude.
Oh Father, for being a character that came in here in this season, was kind of not interesting, gave us the second best song in the entire show, only behind What's His Face in season 3. Like, I mean, obviously he's a Broadway actor, so of course he has to sing at least once.
Thank you, David Diggs.
But
appreciate it.
Thank you. But Oh Father, him dying with us not knowing the truth, not knowing if he was gonna flip, for whatever reason, I loved that. I actually found that so compelling. But the ball gag was kind of stupid. Especially since, like, it was introduced in this episode, and I wish I timed it, but I guarantee you it was not more than 10 minutes later it was used to kill him. They should have introduced it, like, last episode or something to be, like, a little tease or something. Like they did with the deep popcorn bucket, for instance. The deep popcorn bucket, his mouth being open and the water splashing, exactly how he died. The only thing they were missing was the tentacle, which in any argument could just be your arm going into the popcorn bucket. Like,
and that would have given away too much if they put the tentacle in there, let's be honest.
Oh, absolutely.
And you also mentioned, you talked about you don't know what death might be your favorite. A-Train is number one. I think that's the most emotionally satisfying. Oh, but that being said, you said it was hard. I don't think it is. This is probably gonna be a hot take. Butcher's death, I got emotional during, because I think I love that character so much. I don't think they've actually done anything super wrong with that character from start to finish. I love everything they did with that character. And so, in seeing the raw performances of Quaid and Urban come into play in that scene, that whole final scene is really good. It's acted really well. And then his death itself is also acted really well. And I love the fact that Butcher looks at Huey and sees his brother, and is basically in that moment also comparing him to his brother, like he is his brother. And I love it's just, that scene hits so hard. I get that
I get why you could enjoy it. It just was too rushed. I'm sorry. It really was.
Here's the fun thing I'm going to enjoy over the next few weeks, because like the only thing I've heard about this finale is, like, I have heard like a split. People, first up, I do think these people are wrong. People who are overly glazing this, saying it's a 10 out of 10, what earth are you living on?
Oh, I've tried to avoid as many reviews as possible, just so that my thoughts are my own. But I will admit, I've been talking with people all day, and I've seen people on both ends of the spectrum. People who are like glazing the hell out of the show, like 10 out of 10 masterpiece, and people who are like, this is a 1 out of 10 worst finale ever. And I'm like, guys,
it's in between.
I don't like this finale. I've said that. It's not a 1 out of 10. But if you're calling it a 10 out of 10, I think you're smoking crack.
Well, I'll give a ranking for it later, just because I do kind of like have like, I think what is a good spot for it as far as finales go.
Ooh, you're gonna break our cardinal rule?
I'll break the cardinal rule for this
wait.
one.
Are you gonna rank it? Because if you rank it, that's fine. But giving it a score, I might have to stab you over.
We'll see. We'll see what happens when I get there. Rank wise, I can definitely give you a rank, because I kind of know.
Oh, I can absolutely rank. I have no problem ranking. Because
again, but like, I don't know. I think Butcher's death was, at least for me, emotionally satisfying. Although I do see that this, and again, I said this already, it could have been much better. It could have been further.
Yeah.
You can go a lot further into it, but it was still enough to. That honestly, that's how I feel with everything. Everything that we talk
Agreed.
about. I think everything is like, it could have gone much further, but I was satisfied enough and emotionally satisfied enough that I'm like, I can be okay with it. And over time, I'll get easier with it. But I know that they could have done more, especially with Butcher, because it's literally been built towards for a long time.
That's my point. That's why, like, I don't have a problem with Oh Father dying to something that was introduced 5 minutes ago, because he was introduced this season. He was just a fun gag character, and then he died.
Right.
So that's why I enjoyed the way he went out. Again, I do think I was a little hyperbolic saying my second favorite death of the show, but he does rank up there just because of, one, it's a fun way to go out, and two, again, I don't think people are going to give enough credit to the fact of how interesting it is that we never knew whether or not he was going to flip. Like, that's a character I don't want to complete an arc to. I don't want to know where he sits. I want him to be that character that, just like Deep, is glazing him to hell. But, like, we know Deep is doing it for his own gain.
Right.
We don't know why Oh Father was doing it. And I find that so compelling.
Right. Speaking
But
of
with
geek,
a character like, well, I was just, let me
no,
finish
no,
this up.
go ahead, go ahead.
With a character like Butcher, though, we've spent 5 seasons up until this point with him. I need more out of it. Like, I get it. It was okay. It was probably good if it would have been given more time to breathe, but I am a lot harsher on a death like that. That is a main character that was built up literally from episode 1. If you don't do that well, I'm gonna be so much harder on it than I'm gonna be on a character like a gag death like
Right,
Oh Father,
right.
which is why, like, I can't necessarily scream at you for loving it. Like, I think that's far, but I really can't be like, it was a good death, because if I can sit here and be like, they could have done it, not just like a little better, but like substantially better in my eyes, and it's a main character, yeah, I'm gonna have a problem with that.
I'm not saying I loved it. I'm just saying I was satisfied enough. It's like when you go to a restaurant. You want a steak, but you settle for a burger without a bun with really nice seasoning on it. It's good. It gets you the nutrients you need. You're full till your next meal. But it's not a steak. I liked this death. I didn't love this death.
Yeah.
I was satisfied enough with where they took it because it's a very fitting end for that character. And again, I think it's the natural point to take that character. I said before the season even started that this is kind of where I wanted Butcher to go. Is I wanted him to be ultimately another big threat. And a threat's a loose term because it was one scene at the end of a last 30 minutes of an episode, but nonetheless, he was still a threat at the very, very end. I wanted this to happen for him. Again, the only
Yeah.
complaint I could have with it is just that transition between them being at the house to Vought Tower. I wish we had something in between, and then obviously just make your episode a little longer so you can stretch it out a bit. I don't need a whole episode dedicated to this, but I also
I do, but
I can understand why they probably didn't dedicate a whole episode to this. Because if, let's say they had killed Homelander in the penultimate episode or earlier this season, like I originally was predicting, that means you would only have one episode left with this show. And I feel like if you didn't have Anthony Starr attached to it, it would have been a lot harder to keep people interested. Which I don't know if that's a detriment to the show.
I hard disagree. I think it would have been very compelling if it was focused on, like, if Butcher and Homelander would have died and it was just like the boys aftermath, yeah, I would agree. But I think people would have loved to see the wrap up of Butcher and the boys, or the remaining boys.
I want to disagree with that. I just know people, and I know sometimes people can really look that way. Anthony Starr was my favorite character. Now that he's gone, what's there to like about the show anymore?
Anthony Starr gave one of the best performances of all time. Not just like TV, not just villain.
No,
he was
yes,
phenomenal. Like, personally, in a show, in something that means more to me, I can't put it above Heath Ledger's Joker, just because The Dark Knight is, in my opinion, better by like a good margin as a holistic thing. And it isn't just Heath Ledger's performance that carries that movie. It's the whole thing. So the whole product is elevated, and he elevates it to like stars beyond.
Yeah.
But like, Anthony Starr is up there, and the fact that you could even be in my eyes, the fact that you could be even in the conversation with a Heath Ledger's Joker is one of the highest honors you can ever receive as an actor. Ever.
It's funny because I sent you a meme prior to this episode starting of the Night King, and it was Vecna sitting in chairs, and there's an empty chair, and the text above it is the League of Failed Villains waiting for Homelander to show up. First up, I don't agree with that at all. Homelander's not a failed villain by any means. My God, that guy is intimidating. And he is a really cool villain. Anthony Starr performed the crap out of that role, more so than the Night King and Vecna, but obviously Night King doesn't speak the entire show of Game of Thrones, and Vecna...
Jamie Campbell-Bower gave a really good performance, but he gave a better performance... Correct,
level.
And he obviously gave a better performance as Mr. What's-It when you can actually see what he looks like than he did as Vecna.
Right.
But yeah, like, no offense to Jamie Campbell-Bower, I would not put you up there with the Heath Ledger's Joker. I'm putting Anthony Starr up there with the Heath Ledger's Joker.
But also when I see things like that, I'm like, why would you ever put them in the same category? Like, Homelander's so different from any of those characters. Like, if both of the other characters are at least fantasy, why would you even compare them? Not important. What is important is Anthony Starr has earned his money.
Yeah.
He, in my opinion, deserves an award of some kind.
I was literally gonna say the same thing. As iffy as I feel about this final season, and as much as I wish he would have won for a better season, because this is his last chance, I hope he gets at least an Emmy nom or a win. He deserves it. The fact that he's gone 5 seasons giving a generational performance, and I don't know if he's been nominated, but I know he hasn't won, to me is insane. Like, that is criminal.
Well, and I know it's not on the same level. I do think Carl Urban also would be deserved to be nominated. I think Carl Urban deserves
absolutely.
that.
I think the acting in general, I don't think anyone gives a weak performance.
No.
I think the only one that gave like a weak performance, but only in this episode, and we can talk about this as much as you want, we can not talk about this.
Sure.
Sage in this episode was not good. I did not like Sage in this episode.
Yeah, but they're also wrapping up Sage, and they played off his comedic effect of she's no longer smart, and so she just leaves. And
she just loses it in like an accidental test. Like, she knew what she was doing, obviously, but again, it's another example of, oh, we need to give a wrap up to Sage. Boom, done. She has no powers. She runs away. Story over.
Yeah, but I also...
She was a terrible person.
Yeah.
Kill her.
That was one character I'm like, that she probably shouldn't have gotten away. Also, because they also do leave her on a shot of when she leaves the door. It's like taking a breath out the door and leaving like a hopeful thing for her. No! She was a boy. She killed Homelander. Kill her.
It's one of those things where people might be like, she redeemed herself. She gave Kimiko powers. She's also responsible for the internment camps and Homelander becoming God and almost getting the V1 multiple. Like, all of these final season and season 4, all of these terrible things are Sage's fault. She was prepared. She explained in this season that she was going to let the entire world burn. And, she just gets to go off scot-free? No, I hated that. Like, I did not like that. It wasn't just that they let her live. It's that they played it off as comedy because they felt like it didn't matter. Like, no, it does matter. She isn't a character like O-Father that was like, O-Father got a better death. O-Father got a better send-off. And he was introduced 7 episodes ago. Sage was introduced in season 4. Mind you, at the beginning of season 4. We've had her for 2 seasons.
It's still in season 4 and an important enough character that she was literally a focal point of Homelander's arc all the way even through to now. So we don't have to talk on that too much. I do agree with you. I think Sage's send-off is definitely weak. Again, not anything that makes me overly mad, but it's not a thing that I'm like, oh yeah, wasn't Sage a great character with a great send-off? No, she wasn't. Let's open this can of worms because we haven't touched it yet. And if we're going to shout at anything...
Don't do it, brother. I'm so fucking angry.
Can I say this first? And you're not going to like the way I say this, but I actually have...
I won't.
I have a bit... You might even agree with me, maybe, because I have a little bit of a relief. Just a little bit of a relief. And I thought about this when I watched the episode the second time. I'm almost glad that the Gen V characters weren't in this final fight sequence for one particular reason. Season 5 didn't use them. Didn't utilize them to the fullest, except they had a good scene, and Marie had a good scene with Starlight. I'll give it that. I thought that was a great scene. I thought it actually... You're just mad. That was a good scene.
No, it wasn't. It did not feel earned. I'm sorry. It was not earned. It did not feel earned. It pissed me off.
I'm not saying it didn't feel earned. I'm just saying it was written very well. That being said, let me say this. I'm glad they weren't, because if they're not going to respect the characters enough to be in the entire season, I don't want them in the finale. I just don't. That's kind of where I stand with it. I'm glad.
You know what? Surprisingly, I agree with you.
That's kind of how I feel.
I'm more angry about it than you are, and I wish they were in this finale.
Yeah.
But honestly, with what they did with the characters this season, which, mind you, is fuck all, I guess I am glad that they didn't spend more time butchering 2 seasons worth of television. Because the Gen V characters, like, I genuinely, like, that, we don't score things on this. The Gen V characters' treatment in this final season genuinely takes this, like, season finale from being maybe good at times to, like, atrocious to me. Like, I get that that's a terrible take and people are gonna hate me and think that it's too serious. I spent 2 seasons worth of television with these characters, not only loving them, because I love the Gen V characters, building them up to be some of the strongest characters in the verse, entire season of Marie Moreau learning to control her powers, fuck You, Starlight, for saying she can't control her powers. Fuck yourself to hell. Dumbest shit I've ever heard. But also killing a V1 soup with ease, bringing people back to life. I don't even need Marie Moreau to bring Frenchie back to life, which was a popular theory after the episode came out. It's like, they're going to start it off with Marie Moreau bringing Frenchie back to life. I would have hated if they had done that. But honestly, it would have been better than any of the other shit they did with them, because at least she would have done something.
Correct.
And mind you, they do one thing with them, and that is saving the Homelander sympathizers. Yeah. Why am I supposed to care? Oh, yay, they saved people that sympathize with Homelander? Like, fuck all.
Again, there's a good idea with that of we're going to use you to help save other people in camps, but we never see that. Like, nope. You can't really disagree with me. That's a good way to segue them into this season is, hey, we need more people to help fight for our cause, help free people that are in camps. That's a great idea, especially because they are power groups that can do that. We just never see it.
Correct. Like, if we would have gotten scenes of them, and again, people are going to be like, oh, well, they're not in the boys. They are in the boys. They're in the verse. Again, I've said this before, and I will say it again. This season of The Boys, and honestly, this show as a whole, will go down as one of the most ironic things in history. A show started as a counter to superheroes, and in the first 3 seasons, a big focus is on all the movies and all the spin-offs and making fun of them. And then they finally make a spin-off and treat it like shit. I'm sorry, Eric Kripke, you're a fucking moron if you think that that's a funny commentary. No, it's bad writing, and you deserve to be called out on it. Like, that is objectively terrible writing. That's not a funny commentary that, oh, it felt unsatisfying because it was supposed to be that's not called satire. That's called shit.
It's funny because Huey says a line after Butcher's death, and I immediately laughed out loud. Not because it was in the context, like what he said was good. It's a good line, but what he said in the irony of Eric Kripke wrote this line, or he didn't write this episode. He actually, I think he directed this. He didn't write this episode at all, from what I remember seeing.
He had a hand in it.
He had a hand in it, but still, Huey's line was, he had so many flaws, and he was so wrong, but he did what he set out to do. That's a good way to summarize this final season of The Boys. So many flaws, but you did what you set out to do.
They got to the end terribly, but they got there.
Well, and, again, this is certainly far from the worst finale ever. And again, we never watched Supernatural. I even mentioned I kind of wanted to watch Supernatural to you last week.
I've watched 7 seasons of Supernatural.
I want to know what, and this could be just a good question for people in the audience or whatever. Is this a better finale than Supernatural? Because I heard a lot of people really don't like Supernatural's finale, and that was also Eric Kripke, right? Like, I'm not wrong.
Correct. Correct. I will say I've watched 7 seasons. I watched the final episode, but I didn't watch all the build up to get there. So admittedly, it didn't I didn't understand half the shit that they were doing. Sure. But from what I did understand, it's not good. I will say it's probably worse only because from what I know, there is zero anything satisfying about it. Like there's nothing redeemable in the sense of oh, well, at least they reached their goal. At least in The Boys, you can say, well, at least they killed Homelander and didn't let him live and leave it off on a pessimistic ending.
At least Huey let's touch on that because we didn't say that yet. Huey and Starlight's ending, beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they actually both made it out. Would it have been more gripping and shocking if one of them died? Yeah, but I'm glad they didn't because that is a beautiful end for both of them. And the actual final 5 minutes of just everybody, MM finally getting married, Ryan being a part of his family, which is ironic because MM hates Soldier Boy. Ryan is the grandson of Soldier Boy, which I don't know if anybody's really going to think about, and it may not mean anything.
Nope, they're not. Eric Kripke, guarantee you, didn't think about that.
I just think that that's really fun, and that's a really nice thing for him, a full circle thing kind of for MM, where you hate Soldier Boy, but you're accepting his grandson who's had a hard, tragic life into your family, and I kind of like that. Kamiko, I think she's in France, and she's
yeah, well, she went to the restaurant that Frenchie had talked about,
Yes.
and specifically ate the Moncure, which is I believe, French dessert, which is what she's eating at the end, which is his nickname for her.
Right.
That was that whole emotional payoff
Great,
for that
great
character.
emotional payoff for Kamiko. I think that's great. And again, I love what they do with Huey and Starlight, and I love the phone call he gets for the president. It's a very Mr. Campbell, we need you now. No. Did you just tell the president no? Huey, you can't tell the president no.
I will say it was funny, but kind of felt weird and unnecessary.
Sure.
I get, again, nitpick, but something about that scene, and maybe it's because, like, I don't know, the way it was shot or the way it felt like a different show. Something just felt weird about the way that scene just unfolded. I have another big thing that we better agree on, otherwise I'm gonna start screaming. This is something I'm probably a little less passionate about, but like probably one of the things I'm the biggest passionate about in terms of like this is the dumbest shit ever compared to like even the Gen V stuff. Fire the entire boys marketing team. Do not bring them on ever again. Do not let them work for anyone.
The posters?
Fire all of them.
Because of the posters?
I get that the one poster of all the suits behind the White House is an homage to the comic book. Whatever. I think it's dumb. I think it's very dumb that you released it because it meant nothing. And mind you, it wasn't even like an insinuation of something that was even hinted at. It just was a nod that never mattered. And mind you, the boys' entire thing is being different than the comic books. So why do you need to make an homage in a poster? That was stupid. That's not the poster I'm the most upset about. It's the first poster we ever got of Homelander above Earth where he's staring at an Earth that's being nuked, which is heavily leaning into the theme of scorched Earth. I'm not saying we need to nuke the entire world, but why the fuck was that your main marketing poster for a year before the season came out or whatever it was?
I'm glad it looks cool. It means nothing. I actually don't think that one's as bad. Because that could
the Vought Tower one is bad.
The Vought Tower one's worse. Because at least with the Homelander one, and this is just me saying it, nobody's going to probably think this way. This is just the way I'm looking at it. You could say that's Homelander's mind. Perfect. At least that's something. You could get away with it. You can't explain the Vought Tower one. It's on the ground with the Butcher walking on a scorched earth. You can't, and again, if you were never planning to do the it was scorched earth. Whatever. They were both human, beating each other up. Technically, on a technicality, you get it. It wasn't like the actual physical sense of scorched earth. It was a metaphorical sense of it. I get it. Why? Why would you market it like that beyond the fact that it looks really cool? Because unfortunately, everybody on this planet, and I'm saying this about myself because I fell for it too, is a little bit stupid. And we don't think the way that you think as a director or a writer or as a marketer, so you may think it looks really cool, but that makes me think that we're going to have a nuked planet by the end of our show, and we're going to literally have Butcher and Homelander duking it out. That's not what you gave us.
You have built up to scorched earth since fucking episode 1. And if this was the definition of scorched earth you were going for the entire time, don't give us Butcher blowing up Vought Tower and his version of literally walking on scorched earth in Homelander's version of scorched earth and watching the world implode on itself. And then give us a 5-minute fight in the White House that, mind you, didn't even destroy the White House. The White House mildly got scratched. That wasn't even close to scorched earth. You could probably renovate and fix the White House in a weekend with how much damage they did to the White House. I could go in there and do more damage with a crowbar in 5 minutes.
Anthony Starr could go in there and do more damage with a crowbar.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, that was so stupid. Scorched Earth meant nothing when you didn't even destroy the White House. At least destroy the fucking White House or something. Have them fight on the lawn. Have them do anything.
No, and I don't disagree with you about the marketing. I think the marketing, not from the trailer. The trailer's fine.
The trailer was whatever. I didn't like the trailer, but that's whatever.
It was clearly the posters that kind of just threw everybody through a loop.
And I think it's inexcusable. I've already talked to people that are excusing it and being like, oh, well, it's just marketing. Oh, it's just much. It's inexcusable. And if you think any other way, you don't understand how marketing and the human brain works. And that's why you don't work in marketing. And these people should never work in marketing again.
You know, funny enough, one of my favorite movie posters of the past, like, oh god, not even 10 years anymore because we're in 2026. What would be the past 10 years if it was last year? Funny enough, was the IMAX posters for Batman versus Superman. Do you remember how they kind of did those posters? They had two separate posters, and one
Yeah.
was like of them punching each other, but it was like two different sides of them doing it. So you saw Batman and Superman's back on one, or you saw Superman's front, Batman's back on the other. I thought that was a really cool idea, and surrounding them was like all the destruction. Granted, we got that in the movie, but technically they fought on a rooftop. We didn't actually fight in the destruction that, you know, eventually came with like the Doomsday fight. That's a little different than this, but that they could have easily done something similar to that for Homelander and Butcher. Have the poster be Homelander and Butcher staring each other down on the White House lawn. It doesn't even have to be in the White House room. That's fine if you don't want it to be in there, if you want like an open field. But you can't have it be the chaos and destruction that's, you know, simulating if you're not actually gonna give that. And
Yeah.
it's just weird. But I agree with you. I don't disagree with you on that. I think the marketing was entirely off from a poster perspective, just completely out of
Yeah.
left
Oh,
field.
it was like
Missing.
inexcusably bad. Another thing, maybe disagree on, maybe agree on. I liked the concept of what they did with Ashley's character. I don't love the execution of it. I like her betraying in the end, and I like her helping them, the ones, and then still being scared. I think that that's good because we kind of built up to her being bipolar about it. I didn't love it. It felt very fast. It felt very sudden, but I actually kind of think that this is one of those instances where it being a fast, sudden, rash decision kind of makes sense. What I don't love is that the finale for her character was a cut to a still frame of a newspaper article of her getting carted off in a police cart, and that's the last time we ever see her. I personally, for a character that's been arguably a huge major character since episode 1 of the show, she deserved at least something more than that. She has the press conference where she's like, oh, well, I'm not resigning from being president. I did nothing wrong. Ashley was then immediately impeached
Right.
5 minutes later by a unanimous vote from the Congress or whatever. I thought that was funny. I like the concept. I just don't love the execution.
I'm not going to disagree with you because your opinion's your opinion. But again, like I said at the beginning of my review, I'm not mad really by anything that this episode does. I'm not upset by it. I'm just disappointed. I'm not mad by the choice they made for Ashley's character. I'm also not that super high on Ashley's character. I think she has a good arc, but she's not a, oh my gosh, this character has to be done so perfectly, otherwise I'm going to rage. So no, when that end came up, I was like, it's fine. I don't have a complaint with it by any means. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I guess it's just for me, it's reminiscent of how all over the place and inconsistent and not enjoyable a lot of the wrap-ups were. And Ashley, again, is a character that is very important to the story. And for her final scene to be like a 2-second newspaper clipping of her getting carted off in a police car, yeah, that's exactly how I want Ashley to end. In fact, death sentence, honestly, for all the shit that she's done. I just wish we would have seen a little bit more of it. But again, we had to have time to introduce the ball gag. You have to remember, Carson, the ball gag is important.
Well, and I want to talk about this a little bit too, and you're not going to really be able to chime in too much, and that's why I'm going to keep this brief. There was another superhero show that came out this year that had a pretty impeccably phenomenal season. Really good return to form. That being Daredevil Born Again. I didn't get really a chance to talk about it because you weren't caught up yet. That's fine. We'll talk about it when season 3 rolls around, or when Spider-Man No Way Home Brand New Day comes around.
We'll talk about it.
I'm not concerned about that, but I will say this. I really enjoy that finale. And I think a lot of people did too. It took risks. It changed the formula. It changed the game for a lot of what we've had with Daredevil to this point. And one of my biggest complaints with season 1 of Daredevil Born Again was that they felt all over the place and sloppy. Like there was 2 different writers and cooks in the kitchen. They did fix that with season 2. That being said, there was a emotional, satisfying resonance with season 2, the season 2 finale, that made me think that it was great. Like there's an argument that it could be one of the better seasons of Daredevil, and that's a hard bar to pass because those first few seasons are really good.
Very true.
That's a very hard bar to pass, but it does a really good job of wrapping everything up in an emotionally satisfying way from all character perspectives. Again, I think The Boys does that, but to a lesser degree. This is just like, I'm using this comparison because Born Again was also had a finale that was bloody and brutal, and in all honesty, kind of was more bloody and brutal than even The Boys season finale was. And The Boys is known
That's
for
another, that's another problem I have.
That's the reason I'm bringing it up, because like Wilson Fisk in the final episode of season 2 opens a door and punches a guy so hard that his face goes into the wall and you see his skull smashed apart. The most violent thing, granted, okay, yes, this is probably objectively still more violent with, O-Father's head blowing up and Homelander getting his skull literally cracked open. I get that's probably more violent, but it felt more devastating in Born Again season 2, and those were just civilians that were getting destroyed, So I'm giving that example to say, like, there's one show that did it really well. It had the emotionally satisfying ending, and also was more violent than the show that really should have easily been that. I'm just comparing.
That was another.
I'm just comparing these two shows that came out this year. That's all.
Well, and that's another thing that, like, this did not. That's another reason why I wanted more time with Homelander as a human. I wanted him, like, yes, we got a good few licks in on him, and we saw the blood spray when Butcher hit him a few times. I wanted more of that, and I felt like we deserved more of that. Like, I felt like we had earned break his shins, make him suffer, not we'll punch him 3 times and then crack his skull open. Like, I don't...
I'll take or leave that. I think we're going to be differing on that. I do agree with you. We probably could have gotten more, but what we got, I'm honestly okay with, and this is going to be hard. I'm going to ask you to hear me out for a second, and I'm going to ask you to take a walk in Butcher's shoes. I want you to think about this. Let's imagine the person you loved most in this world was killed by this man, and you were going to kill him. Would you make him suffer the most unimaginable death by elongating his death, or would you rather know that that person is dead and your goal is complete, and would you do it immediately? The logical thing is you're going to kill that person the first chance you get, not make them suffer or, elongate it. Do I think that's a normal case in the case of this show? No, because it's a TV show and you can easily do that. But
I don't think it makes sense for Butcher either. He wanted him to suffer.
And I think he kind of did. I think you brought Homelander down to his lowest point, and that's suffering enough. No matter the physical damage you could do to him, I think bringing him to the point that he was at is enough for Butcher to then end up killing him. Which is why I'm like, okay.
I have less of a problem with it not being violent in the sense of, like, we didn't, like, kick his shins in and bones were spitting out and stuff like that, and more about the fact that, like, yeah, he got a good few licks in and we brought him away from his powers, but, like, he was without his powers for maybe 2 minutes before he died. I needed him to be without his powers for longer. I really did. Sure. Like, I'm sorry, that, like, is a non-negotiable for me. I love that they took away his powers. I don't necessarily love the way we got there. I think the Kamiko being the one to take it away. I honestly would have preferred if Soldier Boy, being as bipolar as he was this season, was the one to take away Homelander's powers. Even if he gave him the V1, have him switch again. I don't care. You already set up that Soldier Boy doesn't fucking know what he's doing. Have Soldier Boy take away his powers. I don't love that it was Kamiko. The only reason I am fine with it being Kamiko is because Homelander did kill Frenchie, and there was a bit of an emotional payoff with that being the case. But it's also like that wasn't built up as much as it would have been for Soldier Boy taking away his powers. Like, Kamiko was only mad at Homelander enough to do what she did. I mean, yeah, she's been hunting him for forever, but, like, admittedly, Kamiko held the least grudge against Homelander until he killed Frenchie. Like, she was really just there because of Frenchie, and that's something that they basically say in this episode, is that, like, she's only there because of Frenchie, but now that Frenchie's gone and he's gone the way that he did, now she has an emotional buy-in, a personal emotional buy-in. Like, Frenchie has an emotional buy-in because he has friends that were killed by Soups. Sure. Mother's Milk is there because he has family that was killed by Soups. Butcher was there because he had family that was killed by Soups. Huey is there because he had family that got killed by Soups. Starlight is there because she got raped by a soup
Right.
and had a friend killed by a soup. Like,
Correct.
Kimiko up until this point was experimented on by Vought, but like, she should actually, and this is another thing I wanted to talk about, Kimiko should be the most angry that Vought is just allowed to continue. That was another problem that I had with that in my opinion is a lot on the pessimistic side that I was very afraid that they were going to go with the, like, Homelander lives thing, is like, Stan Edgar just takes Vought back over, and the cycle is gonna repeat. And maybe that's the pessimistic ending that they wanted for it. I mean, clearly it was. I just don't like that. I really don't. Granted, all you need to do is set a fire and the virus goes off because, well, yes, Huey stopped Butcher. The virus is still
Nothing's
there.
stopping a fire.
Yeah,
right.
The virus is still there, and mind you, there's no way to cure the virus. Well, I guess you can bleach it. Apparently, bleach is strong enough to kill it, which we saw in, what was it, episode 6 or whatever?
Yeah.
But no one else knows it's there. Maybe Huey warned them. I guess you can go that route. Why would he? I don't know.
I don't think that you need an answer for it. I think it's pretty clear one of two things. I think Huey would have said something about it, but continue.
I'm just saying I don't love that Vought is still around, and I specifically don't like that, I specifically don't like that Stan Edgar took back over because they gave us the conversation between Stan Edgar and Mother's Milk in episode 3, I believe, where they're in the vault, about Vought and taking back over Vought and the cycle, like, continuing and stuff like that. And I really feel like, again, it was very pessimistic of them to let it continue. And I personally don't love pessimistic endings, specifically pessimistic endings that are supposed to be a commentary on the real world, because even though, yeah, that's the reality of things, I'd love to believe that it isn't the reality of things for once while I'm watching a show. And unfortunately, like, they just didn't do that. And I don't know what you would have done, but, like, Stan Edgar becoming the head of Vought, and like, hell, Ashley was arrested for less. I'm gonna be honest with you, Ashley did way less than Stan Edgar did. She did.
Yeah.
And Stan Edgar's crimes are provable. He was already arrested. Provable. And now he's just out of jail because he can spin and talk very well. That makes no sense. And I really don't like that. I really don't. Even if we didn't have this scene at all, and we just don't know what happened to Vought, I would have preferred that than watching Stan Edgar take Vought back over.
And look, and it's the end of the show. We're never fully going to get an answer to any of this. Again, the only thing that I'm confused about after the season is what The Boys Mexico is going to be about, because if it's about
it takes place after. That's the other thing.
I know it takes place after. What's it supposed to be about? Because The Boys as a team was Huey, Butcher. Are you telling me that we're going to get the exact same plot, but it's going to be just in Mexico? Like,
here's my other problem with that. The Boys is such a specifically American-focused show.
Yes.
Homelander is an American hero. Vought is an American company. A lot of these problems happen because of American politics. You can't replicate that in Mexico because Mexico is not America.
Correct.
It is a different political system. There's different people there. Also, literally in this season, we call all the soups back to America. So yeah, maybe some of them stayed behind and maybe they go back to their homes, whatever. But like, The Boys is predicated on the fact that it happens in America.
Right.
How are you going to do that in Mexico and make it interesting? And it's not only... It's not even like Vought Rising is very specifically about Vought and the history of Vought. We're not saying this is Soups Mexico. We're saying this is The Boys Mexico. Maybe it's a working title. I don't know. But like, The Boys is a very specific thing. You already mentioned it. It's MM, Frenchie, Kimiko, it's Huey. Like, it's all these characters coming together. You're not doing that again in Mexico. And if you do, I'm a riot. That's stupid.
Yeah. Well, and the only thing that I could see that, like, maybe builds towards it is, again, the phone call with Huey at the end with the president was, hey, we're creating a team or a strike force. We need you to go take care of soups that are still on the run or this or that we need to tie up loose ends. Maybe that's what Boys Mexico is about, and that's why they're going to Mexico to tie up a loose end of whatever.
But they very clearly set up that would undo the ending that they gave the characters.
Correct. Well, except it would be a whole different team. It wouldn't be anything to do with Huey or Starlight or any of it. It would just be whoever.
Yeah, but
I
why
don't
would I
know.
care? Like, why would I
That's the thing. I
care?
think like here's the thing, and you're gonna disagree with me because we have two different things. I am still actually looking forward to Vought Rising, even though yes, there's.
I'm not.
I know you aren't. We're gonna do it on
I'm
the
on.
podcast. Congratulations.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna be honest with you. If this is no offense to you, please do not take offense.
Nah, that's fine.
If I had any other co-host, I would not be watching Vault Rising for the podcast. I'm
No, that's
only
fine.
watching it because I know you want to watch it, specifically you. If it was any other co-host, even if they wanted to, I would refuse. But I respect you enough to give you the dignity to review Vault Rising. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna say this publicly on the podcast. I'm probably going to pirate it because I don't want to give them the views. I don't want them to think that I want this show because, in fact, I don't want this show. I don't want this show to get views. I don't want this show to review well. I want this show to fail. Point blank period, I want Vault Rising to fail because I want them to realize their mistakes, and they deserve to realize their mistakes. That is a terrible thing to say because I would love to be the person to say I support artists and all that. I absolutely do. I absolutely support artists. I am one of the biggest proponents of watching things and watching things legally and watching things in theaters. This is an example, though, that is just egregious to me that doesn't deserve my respect at all.
And again, it's funny because I love almost all of the characters that are in Vault Rising that have already been set up. Obviously, we're a big fan of Soldier Boy. Who doesn't like Soldier Boy? It's great. It's Jensen Ackles in a Captain America suit saying heinous things. Who doesn't love Soldier Boy?
I liked him up until this season, but yeah.
Again, we have very different views on how we view him as a character this season. Not saying one's right or the other, but we have very different views. I am actually somewhat interested in seeing the history of how Vought kind of came to be the company that it was in the early stages. Like that's a story that I actually am kind of interested in seeing. I don't know how I feel about it being a multiple season run. Like this seems like it could have been a one season deal of just like, oh, that's kind of cool to see, but I don't know how they're turning.
Do you know what the first season is about?
It's
because
a murder mystery,
I don't know.
Right? That's kind of what I heard.
I was gonna say I don't know if you knew this, but the trailer apparently showed in front of the theatrical release, which, mind you, is ridiculous that they didn't release it on YouTube already. Great that I didn't check, I haven't seen it. But it's a set in 1950s murder mystery style.
That's kind of fun.
That's dumb.
It's dumb. It's fun. I'm not saying it's not great, but I'm saying it's fun.
Maybe. I think it's dumb. I really do.
I said the same thing about Sheep Detective, buddy, and look what happened with the Sheep Detectives.
That's not even close to being comparable. That's not even close to being comparable. I'm pulling a murder mystery
out of thin air. That kind of was.
One is family friendly, Knives Out. The other is we're gonna watch titties and guts left and right. Maybe we won't even get titties. I don't know. We got no titties this season. Very disappointed. 0 out of 10. No titties. Obsession had more titties than the final season of The Boys. I won't spoil anything, but there were titties in it if you think back to the final few minutes.
Not important. What is important?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We'll wrap up our thoughts on this unless there's something else you want to say. Look, do you have something else you want to say?
I'm thinking, because admittedly, we've been talking for an hour, so it's not like we haven't talked this thing to death. But, because this is the last chance we're ever going to talk about The Boys, I want to make sure I get all of my thoughts out.
Look, I liked the Tremor's death was sad. Or not Tremor.
Terror.
Tremor's a D&D character that we have in our campaign. That's a big bear, and he's called Tremor. Terror. Terror's death was sad, but I think that's also just because it's a dog dying, and you know how much the dog meant to Butcher, so that was really
absolutely sad. I mean, any dog death is going to be sad. I love that. I think we briefly touched on this. I love that Ryan didn't even move a centimeter on Butcher at all. Like he stood his ground. He was like, no. And I think that made sense as again, it wasn't. Terror's death wasn't just the straw that broke the camel's back. It was Ryan and Terror combined. I don't think one or the other necessarily would have been enough. Maybe it would have. I don't know. But, both happening, mind you, back to back. Butcher just got rejected by one of the only two people, or one of the only two family that he has left, at least semi like blood related. I know that Terror isn't blood related, but you get what I mean. And he just got rejected by Ryan. He goes to seek comfort from Terror, and Terror's dead. And it's sad. It is. It didn't get a tear out of me, but it was sad. And I think it makes sense to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Again, I just wish we got more. That's all I'm walking away with this season from. Is just I want more.
Yeah.
I said that every single episode. I've said that every single time we've reviewed. And it's ironic because I wish that this season didn't exist. I wish that this show was only four seasons. I feel like 5 seasons is the reason that this dragged on. I think you rewrite season 4. I think you honestly don't even need to really rewrite season 3. I think you just rewrite season 4 because here's the reason why I say that. You already built up the Resistance. You already built up the anti-Starlight stuff in season 4. You already built up all of that pretty seamlessly, in my opinion. The V1 did not matter at all. You did not need any of the V1 stuff. That, mind you, was at least 75% of this season. Take out that 75%. Take out the unnecessary stuff that we didn't enjoy with season 4. Take the good stuff from this season, stick it in season 4, and I think you have a much better season.
Sure.
And I think that would have been a way better ending than what we got here, and it wouldn't have felt dragged on. Because again, like my big complaint is the 1.5 gap between the end of, or 1.5 whatever it was, gap between the end of season 4 and season 5. If you would have just gone from season 3 to season 4 and you had that ramp up, you had the like immediate escalation into things and remove the unnecessary V1 and just have Homelander get a big head and all of that,
Yeah.
I think you would have been way better off.
Yeah, and I don't know. The unanswered question I've been kind of like going back and forth on, even since episode 1 of season 5, was, is The Boys going to be a better finale than Stranger Things? Is it going to be a better final season than Stranger Things? And truth be told, I don't know. At this moment, I don't really know how to answer that because I haven't had
I can tell you pretty definitively, for me, Stranger Things is better by a mile. However, Stranger Things matters more to me.
Sure.
It does.
Well,
I watched the seasons as they came out up until season 4.
Correct.
Yes, I dropped off at season 4, but I still watched the whole show. I still enjoyed the whole show. I have a lot more of a history with it. I am significantly... There is not a season of The Boys that tops almost any season. I would say season 1 and 3 are the closest to topping anything in Stranger Things, and realistically, that's only like season 2. But I think like almost every season of Stranger Things is better than The Boys for me and what I enjoy out of TV. And so therefore I would be more inherent to enjoy. I like sobbed my eyes out. We talked about this on the review. From the point in which they decapitated Vecna to the end of the show, I was crying pretty much nonstop. I didn't even get close to shedding a tear in this finale.
Correct.
At all. And I know there's reasons why. It doesn't mean as much to me. But, like, even I've cried over shows that were 1 season long. It doesn't matter how much something means to me by how much time I spend with it. It just matters how good it is. And I don't feel like this was good enough to deserve my tears.
Well, and again, I had spent more time with it. Both shows of Stranger Things and The Boys, I've walked equally in the same amount of time as far as a journey goes. I've been there from start to finish. I've loved both shows equally. I think they're both, in a lot of ways, fantastic. In a lot of ways, not so fantastic. I think they're both... I have a hard time deciding between the two. If I was leaning towards... First off, they are 2 drastically different shows.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, that already makes it so hard to compare because they are 2 very different shows on very different spectrums.
Well, and one's a 2.5-hour finale that we both watched in theaters, and one's that we watched at home on our TVs.
Correct.
So, and I will admit, the theatrical experience brought the Stranger Things finale up for me at least by a margin of significance.
Right. I don't know. I think it's going to take a lot of time for me to look back on. I think maybe as of right now, and again, I'll be able to talk about this later, especially as we probably talk about a recap at the end of the year where I think I probably enjoy The Boys just slightly more. And even then, it's like, I need to think about it because I need to think about this finale. just like in its entirety. I need to actually sit and not just have like only a few hours after watching it to like think about it, because I'm still off the high of that too. So that could also be a whole thing. But I also
Yeah.
know that people watching the podcast or people who aren't watching the podcast will also probably say maybe the same thing. Truthfully, because there are a lot of people who liked the ending of Stranger Things, but there are a lot more people who really didn't. I
Yeah.
don't feel like
Oh,
I've heard as much of that with The Boys, where it's more so like, yes, it's not as great, but it's nowhere near Stranger Things, at least from what I've heard.
I mean, I've been talking with a lot of people. Again, I've avoided as many reviews as I can, but I have talked to people, and that was a topic of conversation that came up, since these are some of the people that were involved in conversations surrounding the Stranger Things finale. Um, it's a mixed bag, and it really
Yeah.
comes down to which show you care more about. And ultimately, that's how everything comes down to. That's your
Sure.
opinion is going to vary based on how much you care about it.
Right.
I think
If
they're
you,
both very flawed. Personally, I can't overlook the flaws of The Boys as easily as I can for Stranger Things, but that is going to
if you,
be different for other
if
people.
you like The Long Walk, that's great. The Long Walk's a good movie. A lot of people love it. If you don't like The Long Walk, you're crazy, and
I think you're wrong.
I
Yeah,
think you're
exactly.
wrong.
I think you're
But
stupid.
it's your opinion. If you like Tron Ares, you're still wrong. But
No, you're right, and you deserve a pat on the back for being
I
on the right side of history.
I think. Oh my. All in all,
Flashback to that episode.
you'll have a whole separate clip where you just take another clip from it, just us yelling at each other.
No, I'm
No,
too lazy.
but if I was to like, I'm gonna break the cardinal rule just for this one thing. I think as far as the series finale goes, and this might even be a little high for me, I think this series finale at least is a 7 out of 10. It's good. Could it have been significantly better? Absolutely. There's so much wasted potential. But what they gave us, for me again, is enough to be emotionally satisfying for me. But again, there is that disappointment of, I know there could have been more because I've seen better things from this show in the past, but I'm certainly not going to flip the tables, get upset, get mad because this is what they gave us.
Yeah, so I'm not going to break the cardinal rule, because admittedly it's my rule. Both we agree on the rule, but I will give you this. It is my least favorite season of The Boys. I'm going to give you my ranking of the seasons of The Boys. I would say for me, it goes 3, 1, 2, 4, 5. I think that is clearly my ranking. I think the only conversation is whether I'd put 1 or 3 at the top. And honestly, I flip flop on it. That's the only thing I flip flop on. I think I could go 1, 3, 2, 4, 5, or I could go 3, 1, 2, 4, 5. But 5 is very clearly the bottom. 4 is very clearly the second
Sure.
from the bottom. Then it goes 2, and then the top can flip flop. Right
Yeah,
now, I'd say 3 over 1. But again, looking back, it's hard.
I'd say 3. Honestly, if you want me to be honest, I'd say 3, 2, 1.
Interesting. I've
I
never heard that opinion before. Not
I
that two's a bad season. I want to make that clear. Not that two's a bad season.
I need to rewatch it. I would say, based on how I'm feeling right now, 3, 2, 1. Probably 5, 4. And the only reason I rank 4 lower, 4 again has more focus than season 5, but the end of season 4 and the entirety of season 4 kind of ends up being a bit of a nothing burger.
I'll give you this. Season 5 makes what Season 4, as already being an okay season at best, so much worse. The existence of Season 5 and everything they do in Season 5 ruins any good in Season 4. I just think that Season 5 needs to be held responsible for making Season 4 worse. That's the only reason I put it below.
I wouldn't say it eliminates all the good from season 4. There's a lot of good things in season 4.
No. I'm not saying it eliminates all the good, but it makes it yeah, it makes it a lot worse.
Purpose of season 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of, I think that's probably why I'd rank it that way. Again, and I don't hate seasons 4 or 5. I think they're still perfectly watchable. You can have a great time with both of them. They're just not as strong as you could be. So I don't know. That's The Boys for me. I will probably rewatch this show again at some point. Maybe before Vought Rising. maybe in a couple weeks when I feel like I just want to rewatch The Boys. Uh, but I'll even rewatch bad shows every now and again. I still do rewatch Game of Thrones. Granted, that's also comparing four of the greatest seasons ever to grace our
Yeah.
television screens, and just the worst finale ever. I don't know. I'm not gonna get into Thrones
Like
right now.
again,
I'm not
I
getting into
still
that.
see people comparing this finale to Game of Thrones finale, and even as a non-Game of Thrones fan, I think you're smoking crack. And I want to give my thing. I think that, excuse me, sorry. I think I can have a valid opinion on this, even having not seen Game of Thrones, but being a person who has been chronically online and plugged into the nerd space for literally as long as I've been alive, basically.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones is the most popular television show pretty much of all time. Like, I think people are revisionist history because of how bad the final season was on just how much of a chokehold Game of Thrones had on the world. Like, Game of Thrones was every single episode one of the most viewed episodes of television. Like, this show was a monster. So for it to end even mediocre was a travesty. But it didn't end mediocre. It ended terribly. And so that's why, like, the popularity of Stranger Things and The Boys combined don't add up to how popular Game of Thrones is. And so therefore, even if Game of Thrones' ending was as bad as as The Boys or Stranger Things, I still think Game of Thrones would be worse because it has so much higher highs and so much more that people just absolutely flawlessly love. Like, the only negatives I hear about Game of Thrones is the final season. People don't like season 2 of Stranger Things that much. I don't think it's a bad season. I think it gets overhated, but it has a not great episode, and it has some not great moments even before the finale. The Boys has some not great moments, and there are things that people don't enjoy about some of the seasons of The Boys. And again, I'm not a Game of Thrones fan, but legitimately the only negative thing I've ever heard about Game of Thrones from even casual Game of Thrones fans is just the final season. And it's that bad.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a fair to even bring it up in the conversation, but here we are because everyone fucking likes to LARP and talk about whatever is the bandwagon of the week.
Yeah.
Like, it's stupid. It's stupid.
Yeah. But anyway, that's The Boys. I'm gonna get out of costume a little bit because it's hot in here.
Strip.
I'm
gonna strip as well.
I'm Brandon, I just perfectly segue. I'm a little obsessed. I think I might be a little obsessed with our next project.
Carson, do you want to go ahead and give us your review of God, what's his name? I need to look it up because I want to give him the respect that he deserves. Who made Obsession? I don't always do this, but I'm going to do this because I think little spoilers for my thoughts. I think Curry Barker. Do you know the history of Curry Barker? I'm going to give it before you even give your thoughts.
History. I don't know the history.
So Curry Barker is a YouTube sketch guy. This is his first movie ever. Like, he's made short films. He's made one relatively major short film, and he's made comedy sketches on TikTok and YouTube. That is what he's known for. This is his first big budget movie. And mind you, it cost him $750,000 to make, but this is his first theatrical release movie. He came from YouTube, he's come from TikTok, and he's made a movie. I just kind of wanted to give you that preamble if you didn't know that, because I do think it is an important thing to call out that, like, this movie was the first breakout theatrical release for this director. But Carson, go ahead and give us your thoughts for Obsession.
Perfectly acted. This is the best acted movie of this year. I'm not even going to deny that. It's the best acted. Screenplay wise, this is clever. It's like Big, the movie Tom Hanks' Big meets horror, with a guy getting a wish that he's soon later going to regret. Love it. I think that this is the most when I say that's the best acted, it's the most naturally best acted. Like, this is the most relatable, I think, just like film, at least for somebody of like our age or even younger, to like relate to this is great. I think that the unsettlingness of like some of the shots is impeccably well done. I think the twists and turns that the story takes throughout is also really good. Although some of it's like you can guess like one or two things that happens here and there. There's only a handful of things that I'm like, that came out of nowhere and I wasn't expecting it. And it leaves you with such a pit in your whole stomach of, my God, why did you end this way? Just like an ending to a film. This has shot up into, I mean, not even joking, this has shot up into my top 5 so far of this year. This is an incredible film. I'm going to watch it again at some point next week just because I want to see it again. Cinematography is really good. I don't know. All in all, a cleverly written film, very well acted, very well shot film. Just a good package, especially for a debut film.
Fair enough. Give me my 3 minutes because, Carson, this is going to be a first. This is going to be a first. That's never happened before on this podcast. I'm probably going to shock you. Obsession is a perfect film. It is the best film I've seen this year, without question. I don't even think I can compare it to the other films I've seen this year. This is my favorite horror film of all time. Granted, I haven't seen many. I don't really like horror. So for me to say, someone who literally earlier this year was throwing a tantrum over watching the Scream movies, a comedy parody on the horror franchise that admittedly, other than the first one, aren't even that scary. This movie is terrifying. This movie had me actually scream bloody murder, not once, twice in theaters. Genuine, not even joking, not even set up. Caught off guard, so scared that I screamed like a little bitch in the theaters twice. This movie is unbelievably well acted. Like perfectly acted. It is phenomenal. If Indy doesn't get the nomination, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, doesn't get the nomination for Best Actor or Actress, the Academy will never have my respect again. She gives a impeccable performance. I think that every actor, though, Bear's actor, who I have pulled up over here, Michael Johnston, impeccable performance. Absolute perfection. This movie blew me away in ways that I never could have expected. The story, the reason why this movie is so terrifying is because it doesn't rely on just jump scares. There are jump scares, mind you. There are. The horror in this movie comes from how relatable this horror movie is. The actual scary parts of this movie is going, oh shit, I've had that feeling before. Maybe not to the degree, but wanting someone to love you who might not love you back is a very relatable feeling. Feeling obsessed over someone, very relatable feeling. And it's terrifying. It's a very terrifying feeling. Watching someone live out the events that they lived out in this movie was heart-wrenching. It was mortifying. Bear is not just the villain of this movie. He is a detestable character. Like, he knowingly does. He rapes her. Like, I'm sorry. That was rape. He raped her. Like, he does detestable things. He just left her to live with the trauma of 3 of her best friends dying. It is horrendous. And I loved it. I think this movie has the best ending of the year. Like, I never have ever wanted to rewatch a horror movie ever. I hate watching horror movies for the first time. I already have plans to watch this movie on Sunday with a friend of mine. I begged my friends to go see this movie with me because I think it is that fucking good. I think that Obsession is my new obsession. I've been back and forth on whether or not I wanted to say this. The more I think about it, this is my favorite movie of the year. This is over Hoppers. This is over Project Hail Mary. This is over every movie. Carson, I cannot describe how much I love this movie.
No, and again, it's very fair. This is why I love horror movies, because they can tell some of the best stories, and this one is just it's such a relatable story. I think that first and foremost, it's the most relatable story I think that I've seen in just a while, and everybody in some regard, no matter what age you are, can relate to this. That being said, my God, dude, everybody started dying. And I like
Dude,
the second is her name Steph? Who's the girl that ends up
Sarah.
I'm sorry, Sarah. From the second that Sarah gets murdered, I was sitting in my chair at the edge of it, hands like this, just over my
Dude,
mouth, just like
I think you
I
can probably guess the 2 times that I screamed out loud, but like I'm sitting there. They're sitting in the car like a fucking train. Nikki comes running out of goddamn nowhere, and you know it's coming, mind you. Like you might not know that it's coming,
oh
but you
you
know it's
know it's
coming.
coming.
It still was so mortifying how sudden and gruesome and terrifying. I sat there, literally screamed at the top of my lungs in genuine terror by the way that it was acted and performed and everything. And the second time, and admittedly, I think this might just be because I was on edge, when she shot Ian in the head, I screamed. Like, it was so sudden, it was so brutal, it technically happened off camera. She shoots him, I fucking screamed my head off.
I screamed.
I was terrified.
I laughed at the same time because it's such a it's mortifying, but it was so funny because he just hey what's going bang. I'm like why why would you do that?
He literally bear. I'm a billionaire. Bang. What? Like it was insane. And then the movie just doesn't fucking stop ever. Like, I think that this movie is perfectly written. Like, I have thought about this movie legitimately non-stop. And every time I think about it, like, there will be movies, even with Hoppers, even with Project Hail Mary, which were my 2 previous top 2 movies of the year. Both, well, actually, technically, Project Hail Mary never held my number 1 spot, but that's only because it came out after Hoppers. But, like, both movies that were in contention for my number 1 spot, I did not think about those movies as much as I've thought about Obsession. Yeah, I only saw it 2 days ago, but like, there has not been a waking moment that I have not thought about Project Hail Mary of Obsession. Every single time I think about Obsession, I get higher and higher and higher and higher, which is why, like, going into this, it's right now on my ranking list, it's number 3. I started talking about in my 3-minute review of how much I love this movie. 1 minute into the review, it moved up to my number 2 spot. 2 minutes into the review, it's my favorite movie of the year. Because every single time I think about how well written this movie is, it gets better. The intricacies of everything. Like, there is nothing in this movie that doesn't make perfect sense.
I think it's also like it is also hard to compare to something like Project Hail Mary and Sheep Detective. Hail Mary is a little different because it's PG-13. If you really wanted to, you could have deeper adult themes within it that are more thought-provoking, and I think that movie does. But
absolutely,
what this film does so well is it lets you sympathize with this guy, lets you sympathize with Bear. Completely relatable. You feel for him. You really just love the circumstance that he's in. You are drawn into that character, and this is what I love about like anti-heroes and watching people who just refuse to change. Except it's different here because he does try to change a little bit. He does, like you said, the most despicable acts after he finds out that his wish came true. And
he was presented with every single chance. Nikki literally begs him to save her. And what does he do, Carson? He fucking rapes her. And he leaves for another, like, he does the most detestable things in like it is horrible.
What I'm saying is the hard part about this film is because you do actually sympathize with Bear as a character even through all the deplorable things. You get to the end and you can't help but go, my God, everybody, this is just such a fucked up situation.
Well,
Ian
and
didn't deserve what he got. Sarah didn't deserve what he got. And to a lesser extent, I'm not saying he does. Bear does deserve a lot of what he got because he did a lot of horrible things. But prior to those things, like all he did was make a wish and make a stupid thing. He didn't know anything was actually gonna happen.
Yeah.
So like it like all of it just happens, and so you can't help but feel bad about everything that's happening to a certain extent, and that's so difficult.
It's so funny though, because here's the fucked up thing about it is it was Bear's own greed that led to this situation.
Yes.
He could have wished for her to love him. simply just love him. He could have wished to have the confidence to ask her out. And yeah, she would have rejected him. That was literally explained to us in the movie. She was sleeping with Ian. She felt like she had no romantic connection with him whatsoever, despite press. Like, I guarantee you that if he would have owned up to it, she probably would have told him in that moment that she was sleeping with Ian. Like, I don't know. Like, we don't know for sure, but like, we knew that she did not reciprocate his feelings, but he could have at least asked for the confidence and gotten turned down. He could have asked for her to love her. He could have asked for her to like him. God, I fucking love that he begs her to say, "Do you like me?" And she can't. That is so good because there's a huge difference between loving someone and liking someone. And I love that this movie doesn't just gloss over that. Like, they explore that. But it's Bear's greed of, I need her to love me more than anyone else in the entire world. That is his specific wording. And that greed right there is what did him in, and did Nikki in, and did Ian in, and did Sarah in.
Well, and Nikki doesn't even die in the end, which I kind of wish that whenever the camera tilted and she had the gun, I wish it would have been like an even darker ending. She would have seen everything that's like happened before her, and you would have heard like a gunshot or something in the background after.
I disagree with you. I love that she lives just because it makes Bear that much worse of a human being. And here's the funny thing, Carson. I watched an interview. That right there, her living, is the only take of that shot. Not because it was done so well the first time. It was. Carson, they filmed multiple times. The ending was supposed to be her killing herself. That was supposed to be the end of the movie. She herself, the actress, I believe in the interview, had the idea to live and have the trauma. And Curry, of his geniusness, was like, let's give it one shot. I'll give you one shot. Let her do it. That is the one and only take of that ending, and that's the ending that they went with. And I think that confidence in a director is why this man is going to go places that, like, no YouTube director has ever gone before, because that right there and that trust in your actors and that trust in the process and their commitment to the characters is unbelievably fucking genius, and so few people are willing to do that.
Sorry, Markiplier. Get out of the way.
Look, Markiplier made a pretty good movie.
No, I know.
Not even comparable. I'm sorry.
No.
Like, it's not even comparable. Like, I love you, Markiplier, but, like, I'm sorry.
This is a actual, like, this is a film. Like, this is, you're going to remember this film for a long time when you watch it. Again, I think I mentioned things that are like, I predicted a few things. I predicted Sarah was going to die in the car because the moment they got in the car alone, it was like, okay, at some point she's going to jump out and kill her because we've been building to that. Was a bit more graphic than I thought it would be. Yes. And I actually sat there in the theater like, you can stop bashing your head against the wheel. I think she's dead. Please stop.
No. Like, that was crazy, because I will say, I knew a single thing about this movie going in, and that was, there was a car scene that was bad. So admittedly, every time they were in a car, I'm like, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? The second Sarah and Bear were sitting in that car, I was like, oh, this is the car scene. What is going to happen? Because I didn't know what happened. I knew that there was a car scene, and I knew it was bad. Nothing could have prepared me for what I witnessed, though. Well, not a single thing in the world could have prepared me for that.
The one that shocked me, because I never know what to predict with films. Either it's going to be a happy ending or a sad ending. Even till the very last second, I couldn't tell what this film was going to do. So when he got to Ian and he hands him the wish, and I'm like, he's going to have Ian wish them out of the situation, I'm like, that's actually not a bad ending. I'm kind of okay with that. And then he's like, nonchalantly, I wish for $1 billion. No! I'm like, I literally sat there and went, what did you do?
Dude, I lost it. I lost my mind. That was such an insane twist, because you think there's a single chance for, granted, not a happy ending. Sarah's still dead. They'd both still go to jail for it.
Not if you phrase the wish differently, which I think Bear was trying to initiate it. So it's
true.
Like, hey.
He was trying to, like, time travel so that it never happened. I think specifically he asked Ian to wish that he never made his wish. I think that was specifically the wish. So you're right. But, like, God, him just nonchalantly wishing for the $1 billion. I'm going to be honest with you. I can't even blame him. I really can't. Like, I cannot be mad at Ian at all. Because if your friend came to you covered in blood and in begging you after being a very, very shitty friend and ruining his party and things like that, why would I have any reason to believe you? Like, I don't know. The only thing I will say, and this isn't a problem, but it's the only thing of like, maybe Ian should have done something a little more, but at the same time, like, the only thing that she does is have the mental breakdown at the party. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
In front of Ian, at least, that he witnesses, because Bear lies about everything else. The duct taping of the door, mind you, the reveal of the duct tape of the door was horrifying, dude. I, like, shivers down my entire body because I didn't know what was going to happen. It was shot so well, and then it just pans over. The door isn't just, like, locked or whatever. It is fully covered in duct tape. And mind you, Bear doesn't react. He opens it, and he leaves. And she lets him. God, this movie's so fucking good, dude. Oh, my God.
I think, you know, the other shocking part of this, and this was just more of a plot twist, I guess, was the fact that Ian was, in fact, not dating Nikki, but just fooling around with her this entire time.
Yeah.
And, like, I could have probably thought that, but I didn't because I wasn't thinking about that even being an option. But they did clearly set that up from the beginning with the way he's acting. I'm like, okay,
absolutely.
I should have seen that.
There is I never predicted that. The only thing I predicted that, like, I love, because I think it makes total sense and it was very clearly set up, and I think that, like, it wasn't like, oh, well, it was too obvious. Like, no, it was purposefully obvious, was that Sarah had feelings for Bear. Like, that scene at the bar and all of that, and her reaction to, like, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't just like, oh, they set it up too much. No, like, that's exactly how that scene should have gone down, and that setup should have been. And so, like, that made total sense. Admittedly, it wasn't like I was like, oh, I never predicted it. It was more that I never thought about it. You're right. I never thought about that being like a twist with Ian and Nikki. But like retrospectively, makes total sense.
It makes sense.
Like, why else would your homeboy not want you to ask the girl of your dreams out?
Correct.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, my homeboy was so persistent against me asking out the girl of my dreams. Like, that's not a homeboy. That isn't. Like,
did you, you know, this is a separate thing, but I just thought of it. Did you feel triggered by the fact that she fed?
I almost puked. Like, I'm not even shitting you.
Cat?
I legitimately probably the closest I've ever come to puking in a theater. Yes, mainly because I'm a cat owner, but like, that was actively one of the most painful scenes to watch.
Well, because it starts off fine. It starts off really fine, and she reads the note. What's the verdict? Cat. And you just sit there and go, wait, read that again? What did you...
No, my God, dude. Like,
I sat there with my mouth open like, are you kidding me right now?
Literally the exact words out of my mouth. I'm sitting there, mind you, not even thinking about it as a possibility. Never even entered my stream of consciousness. And then she goes, what's the verdict on Cat? I've never gone so cold so fast in my entire life. And then as it's setting in, actively feeling puke, like, move up in my body. Cause like her making the shrine to the dead cat was hard enough as a cat owner, but like her going, not like specific, again, this is why the fucking movie is so goddamn genius, but like the reveal of it being, what's the verdict on Cat, being so nonchalant. And then also, mind you, like, yeah, Bear vomits, but like, no reaction. He easily could have said something about it. He was so addicted to the love that Nikki had for him that he looked over. This is why Obsession's ending is honestly not only the best ending of the year, like, it is actually a perfect ending because Bear only died because Nikki wished for him to love her back. Like, that's why he died. He was going to puke. He put the gun in his mouth. He took it out. He put the gun on the back of his head. He put it on his chest. He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. Finally, call back to the pills at the beginning. He goes to take the pills. He takes the pills. He sits down on the sofa. I can't do this. I'm going to puke it up. It makes so much sense for his character. We've seen him put up with so much and be so selfish and so greedy this entire movie, and that doesn't fucking stop. He is ready to puke it up, and then you hear the music, Carson. You hear the music. You never technically have confirmation. You don't know what her wish is. You don't know anything. You hear the music. He perks up. He walks out. He hugs her, and he dies.
Yeah.
Literally cinema. And
Yeah.
then you have a minute, you have a little bit of an ending, and then Nikki comes out of it, she reacts to it, and then the movie ends. I could not have
it
asked
is
for a better ending to this movie.
it is a perfect ending in this film, and I don't know, that was unsettling. Her like the one shot of her just standing and smiling
Oh
was,
my god.
I mean, completely unsettling. Um,
Dude, her in the corner of the room was
yes,
horrifying.
yes.
Like, yeah.
So
Also, the scene of her walking backwards and like specifically like her face and like I need to rewatch the movie, but like her face, like it looks like she's trying to break free in that moment. Like again, like this is not Nikki. This
right,
isn't. Because and this is the genius of the writing, it's only not Nikki because Nikki could not love Bear. If
right,
again, you could have done this so many different ways and it never would have led to this. But Nikki did not have the capacity to love Bear more than anyone else. So the only conceivable way was to replace Nikki. That phone call where it's like, do you want to talk to Nikki? God, that was horrifying. Like,
So that was honestly, that might have been the scariest scene for me. Was, do you want to talk to Nikki? And it's like, so I
and
guess
then you,
the question I have, and I was trying to figure this out. Is that a demon in Nikki's body? Is that what they're? Do they? Because they
so,
never really say it.
and I love that they don't say that. I'm going to be honest with you because here's the thing. This entire movie is very grounded in reality other than the wish. That is the only supernatural
Right.
element of this
Right.
movie is the wish. And yeah, it's a main plot point, but that's never the focus of the super. The only
Correct.
main focus of that being a supernatural element is two times. The phone call and then her being asleep and saying she's asleep right now, which mind you, probably one of the scariest things a person can tell you
Correct.
at all. Like, that's terrifying. Like, legitimately, like, do you want to speak to Nikki? And she's asleep right now? Chills. Like, terrifying lines that, like, if I ever heard that in real life, I'm running farther than I've ever run before in my entire life. But honestly, like, I get your question, and, like, I think it's a fair question. I don't care. I really don't.
No, I don't either. I'm just saying, like, did you think it was a demon? Would you say it's just her?
It
I mean,
might have been.
it has
I
to be
don't know. Like,
because her soul's talking through the phone in some regard.
correct.
So
Correct.
I mean,
But like, here's the reason. Here's my thing. I don't think Nikki's in hell necessarily. I think Nikki is still there. She's very clearly still present in the body, because she has
she
enough
freaks
stream of
out.
consciousness to not like to specifically say like she knows what's going on. That's why she asked to die. She wouldn't have asked to die if she didn't know what was going on. So like it's very much a like mind out of body, like out of body experience for her. So that's why it's like I don't necessarily know if it was like a demon that took over her body more than like there was a presence controlling her specifically. Like I don't think of it as a demon. I think of it as like the only conceivable way for Nikki to love Bear uncontrollably was for it to not be Nikki. So therefore, that's not Nikki. I don't need it to
Right.
be a demon or a ghost or a ghoul or anything like that. I just need it to not be Nikki. And very clearly, it's not Nikki.
Yeah, I don't know.
So like I think it's a fair question, but it's just one that I admittedly don't care about.
Well, and look again. I'm glad you said at the beginning what you said. Look, I got to think about it more. I loved Sheep Detectives. I loved Project Hail Mary. What's the other film that I really enjoyed?
Hoppers? I know you had Hoppers high as well.
Hoppers.
Yeah.
I loved all of them. I really like Obsession. This film's so fresh in my mind. I could have a different outlook on it, similar like what I thought about The Boys earlier. But I do truly believe that this is like this for sure is never leaving the top 5. This is potentially my favorite film of the year.
I think even
this is
if
a
it's
contender for it. I just need to think about it more because I really did enjoy Project Hail Mary.
here's the thing. Even if it's not your favorite movie of the year, like I think that it is up to preference on whether or not this is your favorite movie of
Well,
the year.
sure,
Because like
sure.
admittedly, I had it at number 4 to begin with. I had this below Sheep Detective, Project Hail Mary, and Hoppers when I first walked out of this movie because I am just not a big horror movie fan. And I'm going to favor something like a Sheep Detective or a Project Hail Mary or a Hoppers.
Right.
The reason I would say this is my favorite movie of the year is because I've never had this experience with a horror movie before. And it's not just like I liked it. No, I am, lack of a better term, obsessed with this movie to the point in which, like, I am going to rewatch this on Sunday with a friend of mine. Like, I'm
thinking about it
going
for
to
next week
rewatch
see it.
this. Like, yeah.
That's the highest praise you can give a movie is that you want to rewatch it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And
But, like,
you want to take others too.
yeah, but I think it is up to debate on whether or not it's your favorite movie of the year. But, like, I don't think for me personally, it is even a question that this is the best movie of the year. I have my problems with Project. I have problems with Project Hail Mary. I have problems with Hoppers. I have problems with Sheep Detective. I don't have a single problem with this movie at all. The only comment I have, and it is a comment, is I have to admit, there was a point when Sarah's head was being bashed against the thing that I could tell it was a doll and not a real human. That is the only comment I have. Literally, still did not remove how scary it was.
What did I say earlier about the boys? Suspend disbelief.
Well, yeah,
It
exactly.
ain't
Like,
real.
and again, this movie was made off of $750,000, Carson. And this movie is already made $25 million or something like that as of the time of recording this, and it's only going to go up. This movie, in terms of profit margins, is going to be probably the biggest profit margin of the year.
Sure.
Also, I'm gonna say this now. The titties, it was very brief, so I don't blame you necessarily for forgetting. Sarah's body, when we pan to it, when it's in the house. I don't know if you remember, but when we're in the house and we think that, like, Nikki has tied up Sarah and, like, probably, like, thrown her in a well or something like that. No, Sarah's body is in the other room, like, I'll call it the formal dining room, like, sprawled out like a sex doll and tits are out. It's very clearly not the actress. It's very clearly a doll, which again I don't have a problem with. But like that was naked. You'll probably realize it on the second watch. I only bring that up because it was a funny joke that I made earlier, and I just wanted to explain it because you probably forgot. It doesn't matter whatsoever.
It's a great full circle for the review. It's a great full circle because that's what you started with.
Exactly.
No, but this is like, if I'm summing this film up into one word, this is what peak entertainment at the movie theaters should be.
Absolutely.
And what it can be. This is, like you said, as close to perfect as perfect can be. I have flaws with it.
I'm going to continue to think about this movie after this review is done. I'm going to continue to think about this movie until I rewatch it. And then after I rewatch it, I'm going to continue to think about this movie. Like, this movie has a grip on, like, there is so much that, like, I mean, admittedly, it's what, 9 o'clock at night. We've been going for 2 hours. I could legitimately talk about this movie for another hour. We've already been going for like 50 minutes on it. There is so much. Again, like, God, I just want to keep talking about this goddamn movie because every single, like, nuanced moment, there's so much nuance in this movie.
Dive into everything in this film.
Like,
everything.
Again, the rape scene where it's like, okay, you can make the excuse that the first few times that they're seen having sex, he doesn't technically know that that's not Nikki. The other time that, like, that's, like, third time or whatever, the second scene of them having sex together, not only does he know, but, like, her moans are terrifying. Like, she's not moaning out of enjoyment. She's moaning out of obligation. That is horrifying. She's, like, literally laying there like a sex doll, moaning out of obligation, and Bear continues with it. Because, mind you, this is pretty recently after she did some very heinous things, and then we cut to them having sex. And it doesn't matter because Bear is a terrible person. Like, Bear didn't start out as a terrible person, but he is easily corrupted by his obsession with Nikki. Back to the name of the movie. And I think that every single moment where you realize his slipping more and more and more, and like, again, every time that Nikki tries to hurt herself, that is the real Nikki trying to kill herself so that she can get out of this situation. Yeah. The scene where Bear, I would call this the straw that broke the camel's back, but admittedly, it was an avalanche. when he is having the conversation with the real Nikki in bed and says, "What is so bad about loving me?" God, that hits so hard because, like, in his mind, in his fucked up mind, she views it as a negative to love him, and that's why she wants to die. He is so obsessed and up his own ass that he cannot realize that it has nothing to do with him as a person or him being lovable. Like, he literally, I'm sorry, Sarah is fucking gore. I would love, like, Sarah is like my kind. Like, they Googled my type. The only negative for her is that she, like, smoked in that one scene, and I hate smoking. But, like, look up My Perfect Girl. Fucking Sarah pops up, like, top 2. Like, you had the perfect woman right there, and you just fucked off because you needed Nikki. He could have been happy with Sarah, but no. He needed Nikki. God, I'll stop talking. I know you're tired. I know we need to be done, but, like, God, I fucking, like, I am just blown away by how much I love this movie and how much I cannot stop thinking about it.
Vast different from The Boys.
Yeah.
Vastly different from The Boys. But all in all, I told you prior to this episode, I was excited talking about both of these because I genuinely had a lot of things to say about both, but I also obviously I didn't hate my time with The Boys, but I really enjoyed Obsession. So getting to talk about both those in the same episode works pretty well. And now we have an open episode for a big Star Wars episode, which is going to be fun.
Yeah, next week we will have our review of Mandalorian and Grogu. We're talking about possibly reviewing. There's another, I'll just say I don't say the name of it. There's another horror movie that comes out this weekend. It doesn't have near the hype of Obsession, nor do I think it'll be as good, but there's a chance we review it. I'm not going to put a guarantee on it, but at the very least, still on Sunday around noon. We're bad with timing, but around noon, you will get our review of Mando and Grogu, and additionally our thoughts on the Lanterns trailer, which I'll give you a little taste of. Why the fuck did they show us that first trailer and then give us this for our second trailer? That's all I'm gonna say. You could take that how you will until we talk about it, but like, we'll talk about it. I would say next week, literally 2 days from now, or 3 days from now. 3 days. So yeah, that has been our review of The Boys series finale. That has been our review of Obsession. Anything you want to end us off with, Carson?
I'm hungry. I'm tired. I want to go to bed.
Fair enough. Well, this has been another episode of the Nerdy Nimrods podcast, the only podcast on the internet where you two favorite Nimrods talk all things nerdy. You can find us on all podcast hosting platforms, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Music, literally anywhere you can find your podcast, you can find us. Let us know your thoughts on both of these in the comments. It really helps us out. Drop a like, drop a follow. We do these every single week. Sometimes twice in a week, apparently. This is our first time doing it. Maybe more will come. Honestly, this was a very, very rare exception, but you will get a episode a week at the very least. You can find us on all social media platforms at Nerdy Nimrods. I haven't posted there in a while. I keep saying I'm going to get back to it. I told myself I'd stop promising, but I will probably get back to it one day. But you can find us on at Nerdy Nimrods at all social media platforms. You can also find us on at Nerdy Nimrods clips that I do post on at least 3 to 4 times a week. I'm actually going to put up probably 4 clips tonight because I want to get our Obsession and our The Boys final season reviews at least up, and then you can expect over the course of the next few days you will also get some of these other discussions. I post on there all the time. That one I am very active on, responding to comments about the main reviews and fun arguments that we get into on the podcast. That is at Nerdy Nimrods clips. But this has been this week. Next week will be next week. And Carson, as always, stay nerdy.